University of Utah put in new garbage cans and new trays, and they didn't communicate. And the trays were bigger than the opening, so you had to turn it diagonally to get it in, and all the stuff would fall off. So they had piles of trash in front of the garbage cans because people couldn't empty their trays. So that's a total system loss. Now, a total system loss where it is a bigger deal would be something like this. Here's an example of a total system loss where there's a lack of visibility and feedback. You have 130 feet that you can't see when you're in a haulage truck. You can literally drive over a tool truck and not realize you're doing it because these trucks kind of float around, they bounce around. I forget the tonnage. I think it's 340 ton capacity, the bigger ones, and 270 for the little ones. So I've done some work in surface mining, and you want to talk about moving materials. And these guys are moving materials. And when you're down in the mine, when she asked, Kimberly asked, what was your most memorable thing? We went down in the mine, and you have a big buggy whip on your vehicle, and the whole time I'm paranoid, like, they're not going to see us, they're going to kill us, I'm going to be flat. That's going to suck. You know, I don't want to do that. That's not how I want to die. I want to die somehow more interestingly than that. But so there's trade-offs associated with mechanization and automation of manual material handling tasks. We've got different trade-offs. And I'll show here, this is a picture from Dr. Gu gave me. And he said they had these big stacks. And he said, well, how do they get the stuff up there? And he goes, oh, they just kind of flip it up. How do they get it down? They kind of jump up and grab it down. And he said, just as he went over to take a picture, the guy flipped it up and a whole pile of boxes fell on it. Well, when we're not mechanized, you've got a limit to what can happen. Here's an example of another manual task. Let's see if I can, how do I drive my video? No. Oh. Let's do it like this. Let's see. No, that's not helping. Ah. All right, I'm going to call an audible. We'll do it this way. We've got, do it old school. This seems impossible to me. Now watch this. Oh, he's barefoot too. All right, I think that's enough, okay. Somewhere there's an IE saying we could have got 2 more bricks on that man's head. I mean, okay, so you get the idea there. But now when we're talking about a... Don't forget to send that link when you send the... Yeah, it's in the presentation. I think what's happening is it's cutting the bottom off of my slide. And, oops, let's get the... we have the warehouse... Let's see. Let me see if this is the right one. No, that's not it. I do want to show this because it's so, let's see if it's the one I think it is. No, this is a Lego. We don't want to see that. Let's see. Is the one at the top? No, that's a case study. I'd like to bring in the, it's a guy who broke his back, hurt his back, and yeah. Oh, here's one. This will give you some idea of. I wonder if he's going to make it through that narrow spot. Now, the other one I was going to show you is actually worse, where he takes out like the entire warehouse, and it's. That's the one in the liquor. It's a liquor thing, and it's like $100,000 worth of. Yeah, it's alcohol abuse. He abused that alcohol.
What, vertical column? Yeah.
He hits the thing, and the entire facility just like implodes on him. And the link will be in there. I'll make sure before I get it to you that it'll play. I'm very disappointed, but essentially, I don't think it's going to play, unfortunately, here, and that really bothers me. All right.
He's going to back into that column there and cross aisle.
The entire facility goes down. So, and I apologize that this worked this morning at like 6 a.m. So let's talk a little bit about biomechanics. And it looks like I'm running my mouth a little too much because we have till when? 12:30, right? We'll try to get done before then. So we all know this. I like to show students, yeah, we get it. But what they don't always get is that a lot of the levers in your body are inefficient. It's why we can throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, because we have to put a lot more in than we get out. So I always like to do like a demo, and I get a volunteer. So I'll take Patrick and take your book bag and hold it out here until I finish the lecture, and you get an idea. Okay, shoulder moment. Wow, where's it easier? It doesn't take a lot there. The thing that we also have going on is that the fulcrum has the entire load on it. So here's an example that illustrates that, where we look at the low back, and the low back muscle is approximately 2 inches from the spinal segments. Center of mass, if this guy's bent over in this posture, is probably about 6 inches. Let's say he holds a 50-pound box 20 inches in front of himself. Because that lever arm is only 2 inches, the back muscle has to react with 800 pounds of force. But the fulcrum sees all that weight, upper body weight and the weight of the load. So we have about 950 pounds pushing down. Now, I'm gaming it a bit. We got a 40-degree angle, so we got to do the cosine and all this. We got some shear and some other things going on. But to illustrate this, you got about 900 to 1,000 pounds of force on the back to lift a 50-pound box 20 inches away from your body. So these things can ramp up pretty quick. So to illustrate, often the heaviest thing that we lift is ourselves. And you can see here center of mass of me, center of mass of the box, assuming it's a 30-pound box. And you can see, okay, what are the forces? And that back muscle only has about 2 inches. So my friend Joe is a lot leaner than me. We weigh the same, but he's 6'2". I'm 5'9.5", or what is it? 4'19" or whatever. The force on his back to pick up a pen is 585 pounds, just because of his body weight to pick this up. And in fact, it's not always intuitive. If I show you this and say the box weighs 30 pounds, which of these lifts has the greatest back compressive force? Using that little model I just showed you guys. This is actually modeled with software, the Michigan model, but assuming it's a 30-pound box, which of these lifts has the highest back compressive force, you think? 1, 2, 3, or 4? 3, okay. We can agree 3, that's good. Which one has the lowest? 4, okay, so let's look and see what we got. And it turns out in this case that this isn't the lowest. And even though this is a stupid lift, and I wouldn't want to do that, I weigh enough. If I'm 185, 90 pounds of me approximately is above my low back and it's hanging out there in front. So when we look at things, we want to just be cognizant of our own body weight versus what the weight of the load is. So different. Now, of course, this video will play, and I don't even care because this one's not as cool as the guy getting crushed. But you can see here, this is just a simple 2D lift. You can see on the right is the force being exerted on the ground, the reaction force. The speed of the lift is going to affect the forces that this person's going to see. Why is it that we recommend waist level lifts? Why do we say waist level?
Minimize your bending.
Minimize bending, because we've got all that, we take away often the biggest part of the lift, which is ourselves. So I like to do a demo with the chair, and I say, well, what's the safe way to lift this? And people come in here and they're always like doing this, oh, the safety guy's here, and they're bending down and it's pushing it away, and they're doing all these things, and and it's like, well, one, it's on wheels. Do I have to push it? I really liked a lot of the automation that we saw yesterday, where they're sliding and dropping, sliding and dropping. If I did have to lift it, why not wheel it close to myself and not even bend over and keep it close to me? These are things that we're not always creative in how we approach these scenarios. So like I said, every once in a while I like to throw in a little slide. stop for questions, make sure students are paying attention. If you throw in like those videos, you'll wake them back up. I promised I'd have a little bit on how to engage people. One is make it personal. You could use examples, especially your own mistakes. They think it's funny, oh, you know, like the time I was trying to find where the water pipe was. I was outside, I measured from the window 6 inches to the right. I went inside, I measured 6 inches to the right, and I was 12 inches off. Studs are every 16 inches. I cut a hole in the wall to find the pipe, wasn't there. So but use familiar references. I always like to mention, like with lifting, how many people, you have some like, you get your groceries, what do? You carry them all in at once. You got all those bags all stuck into your fingers, right? You go up the stairs, drop, make a salad on the way, you know. Why do we do this? And you know, so give examples that people can resonate with. Tie the material to the rest of the curriculum. I always like to give safety examples in the human factors class and vice versa. I like to use humor. I like to show old technologies. People really like that. I like to elicit empathy. So this is something, you may have seen this. This is a mirrored restroom on a busy street with a lot of pedestrian traffic. And this is what it looks like on the inside. And I asked the students, well, how many people would feel comfortable using this restroom? And they're all like, hell, I wouldn't want to do that. In fact, you know there's people who live here that walk by and they just point, they just guess someone's in there and laugh or whatever. But there's social and cultural things, and people don't always like to be, you know, Kimberly mentioned with these tours. You know, and how do you approach them? Dorian, you mentioned if they're really busy, you don't want to distract these guys. And how do they feel, and what are some of the things going on?
By the way, if that's double-sided glass, depending on the lighting, you could be able to see inside the restroom.
Yeah, so I think most people wouldn't feel comfortable even if they knew for sure you couldn't. But it's so, except for my brother, he'd be in there in a heartbeat. He'd leave the door open probably. But I like to use periodic breaks to stop, reinforce concepts. I like to hands-on things, pass things around as a demo when I can. I like to solicit audience participation, their input. I try to get volunteers. I give what I call tangential assignments. If someone asks a good question, I say, that's a great question. Look it up and bring it back to class. Now these days, a lot of times they'll get online and they'll figure it out, or they'll get an answer to it. And I'll save a certain number of homework assignments that can be represented that way. When the class gets big, that becomes unwieldy. But often the students will want to do it. I call it priming the pump. I want to make it so the class starts with a video, a case study, or something interesting so they don't want to miss the beginning of class. So they're always there on time. So just to kind of summarize, I like props. And those props can be physical or virtual. They could be simulations, videos, case studies, current events. When something happens especially in your region, you know, talk about it. Hey, this warehouse thing happened. This is, and be able to bring that in. Sharing personal examples, both directions, the students and you. We already talked about field trips, both actual and virtual. I'm excited to see the virtual ones. Participatory demonstrations, and then guest speakers. And I think Kimberly mentioned also recent program graduates. It kind of gives them hope. Hey, I can get a job. And that sounds pretty cool what they're doing. Also, students, think back to when you graduated. Did you know what engineers really did? And how much of the job is on-the-job training, and what do you have to learn? So bringing people in really is useful. You know, I mentioned the scale of these things. I kind of put myself, a little picture of myself to show the wheels are 12 feet tall. So there, you know, in some material handling environments, there can be some other complications that go in. We mentioned visibility. We mentioned feedback. I just left it in on purpose. That's my friend. He gets people's attention. But I told you guys I'd talk a little about the changing workforce and how this impacts things. And as the workforce, we're getting older. We're becoming more diverse. We're becoming heavier, much heavier.